I want you guys to take a look at a speech. I think the speech is personally breathtaking, prescient to the 9th degree. This is Barbara Lee. This is almost immediately in the aftermath of 9/11. Take a look at what she had to say. One second. Sometimes, there we go. All right, let's try one more time.
The gentlewoman from California is recognized for a minute and a half.
Thank you, and I want to thank our ranking member and my friend for yielding. Mr. Speaker, members, I rise today really with a very heavy heart, one that is filled with sorrow for the families and the loved ones who were killed and injured this week. Only the most foolish and the most callous would not understand the grief that has really gripped our people and millions across the world. This unspeakable act on the United States has really forced me, however, to rely on my moral complex and complicated matter. Now, this resolution will pass, although we all know that the president can wage a war even without it. However difficult this vote may be, some of us must urge the use of restraint. Our country is in a state of mourning. Some of us must say, let's step back for a moment. Let's just pause just for a minute and think through the implications of our actions today so that this does not spiral out of control.
Barbara Lee, September 14th, 2001, and she is prescient enough to say, look, maybe we should think twice about what we're going to do as opposed to making George Bush God of War. Maybe we should think about what we're going to do just to make sure that this doesn't spiral into something else. You know, like spending $7 trillion on the military. You know, like killing 1 million Iraqis. You know, like going into Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya. You know, one country after the next. Let's think about this before we take the fist of America and start punching other countries in the face. Prescient. Prescient. She accurately described what has taken place under Democratic and Republican administrations. Now, let's take another look at something else. %70 of Americans now support Medicare for all. 70%. This includes over 50% of Republicans, meaning the overwhelming majority of this country supports Medicare for all. Take a look at this. Over 60% of Americans back tuition-free college. The majority of the country overwhelmingly backs tuition-free college. Take a look at this. Poll. Bipartisan majority supports raising the minimum wage. This is the fight for 15 thing. Both Republicans and Democrats, a majority, support raising the minimum wage. Across the board. Now, these are considered progressive issues. This is our wheelhouse. Barbara Lee is on board for all of this, which means that she is on board for America itself. Meaning she is literally the middle of America itself. Whatever you want to say, those particular issues have agreement across the board. And Barbara Lee is standing in the center of those issues, in addition to being absolutely flat fact right on what took place after 9/11, especially with this idea of making George Bush the god of war. if not an incompetent god of war at that. I have a question. Why isn't that woman Speaker of the House? Why isn't that woman Speaker of the House? She seems to be in the middle of America at this point. She was right on the war. She's in agreement with Medicare for all. She's in agreement with $15 minimum wage. She's in agreement with tuition for colleges. Across the board, she has America's support. So explain to me why Nancy Pelosi believes that she's going to be Speaker of the House. Ocasio-Cortez says she is not going to support Nancy Pelosi in this particular pursuit. $100 million Nancy Pelosi is not on board with the anti-war thing. $100 million Nancy Pelosi is not on board with $15 an hour minimum wage. $100 million an hour Pelosi is not on board with Medicare for all. Nancy Pelosi is part of the right-wing faction of the Democratic Party, and she in no way represents America. Barbara Lee was right on all this stuff. How is she not the person? How is she not the person? If the Democrats are trying to turn over this new leaf, if they are trying to have this overarching idea of what it means to be a Democrat, and they want to get the public to some degree, to some level of belief that the party represents something more than just their corporate donors, shouldn't you go with the person who was right on the war thing, that is right on the $15 an hour minimum wage thing, meaning in the center of America, that was right on the healthcare issue, that is right on all of these issues? Shouldn't that be the person who represents the party, seeing as she is at this point America itself? They keep telling me that it's turning over a new leaf. They love the identity politics. Why in the hell is $100 million Nancy Pelosi the representative of this party? And what does it say that $100 million Nancy Pelosi is going to get the gavel, or potentially the gavel again? Barbara Lee. She should be the person that's going to be the face and the representative of the party. She should be the person who gets the big gavel. She should be the leader of the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives. That is my vote. There should be a resonance from this. All across the spectrum of the left, there should be a resonance on this point. Barbara Lee should be the person who's the majority leader of the House. Let's see, who's here? This just seems right to me, especially since she has been right on one issue after the next. And from the standpoint of what America wants, she is once again right, even on that. Pelosi interruption. But Jamarl, how much money has Barbara Lee raised for Hillary Clinton's list? I mean, for the DNC? I'm going to let you finish, but I'm the best raiser of money of all time, Nancy Pelosi. But is that what you want? Is that really what you want? Do you really want somebody who's the best raiser of money of all time? I mean, doesn't that just mean that the person is corrupt? That ultimately, if the person is raising money, what are they doing to raise that money? Who are they raising that money from? Answer those questions. Those questions are pertinent. I mean, after all, the media likes to show all of this money. Oh, look at how much money this person has raised. Missing the point that if the person is raising money, they're doing favors for that money. You have dollars or you have pitchforks. You don't have both. If they're raising all of that money from those corporate donors, they're doing the favors of those donors. Why do you want your politician to be corrupt? Why do you want your politician bought? Barbara Lee checks off the box on multiple parts. And if anybody was going to lead the Democratic Party, if anybody was going to be the face of the Democratic Party, especially from the standpoint of what America wants, it should not be $100 million Nancy Pelosi that doesn't check any of the boxes. Barbara Lee for majority leader. That's my vote. Red economics. For the same reason Bernie was allowed to be president. I hear you, red economics, but come on. That's the person. I understand this for the same reason Bernie wasn't allowed to be president. But I'm asking somewhat of a different question. From the standpoint of the left, there should be a resonance that Nancy Pelosi should not take that gavel. That woman presided over 1,000 seats being bled away. How much money she was raising when all those seats were being lost? Isn't that a question? And does she really represent the interests of America if these things that I'm showing, if these things are America, 70% Medicare for all, 60% tuition back college, majority minimum wage. If Barbara Lee is the person that checks all those boxes and Nancy Pelosi checks none of those boxes, then why is that the person who's going to be the head, the majority leader again? And isn't it time for new blood, new leadership? She's been in Congress and she's been in politics for as long as any of them. Replacing swamp creature Joe Crowley is not enough. It is time for new blood. It is time for new leadership. It is time for a new direction. Majority Leader Barbara Lee. That's my humble opinion. So, I don't want this one to be long. Nancy Pelosi has violated the social contract. Yes, red economic, that's exactly why. Nathan Kettle, Nancy Pelosi will have some kind of dementia meltdown in the next few months. Prediction, that's fucked up. And probably true. Trina will be fine. They're not Democrats. Why would they want a Democrat in charge? I don't understand that one. They're not Democrats. Why would they want a Democrat in charge? Oh, you're just saying that the essence of what a Democrat is supposed to be, philosophically supposed to be, is representative, indicative in Barbara Lee. Not necessarily in Nancy Pelosi, these corporate class that's for all intents and purposes just Republicans that like social Republicans that are okay with social stuff, you know, the gay marriage and that type of stuff. Barbara Lee is the person that you want representing your party. Barbara Lee is the person that gives you an overarching idea of what it means to be a Democrat, a new notion of what it means to be a Democrat, especially with the new blood that you have in Congress. It is not Nancy Pelosi. It is Barbara Lee. I would like every show to howl at the top of their lungs, Barbara Lee. That's what I would want to take place. Sound off. Sound off. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody. I'm laughing at one of the comments. The dementia thing is fucking hilarious. Alright. I don't want this one to be long because I want people to be able to digest what I'm saying in a short packet without it being like an hour. So I'll see you guys shortly. Thanks all. Right in Economics and Baltazar. Thank you guys. Your support keeps the show ticking along, so it's appreciated.